Okie doke. So what we're going to be talking about today is using a RecyclerView, and we're going to be adding a little bit of extra functionality into the RecyclerView. Basically, what I have some custom data set over here that has some, people, their names and their ages. But the theory now is that within the RecyclerView, I want to be able to click on individuals. And so what I have over here is some dots, and I want to be able to click on this particular user and perhaps edit the user and get some notification dialog or some sort of notification that I can modify this user and then go back. Now, I have not implemented an edit text here. I just have a text view so you can see the data, but presumably if we can see this data, we could go to a state where we could actually modify this data. We're getting the underlying data. Like the main idea of this is that I can click on a particular user and get information specific to that user. I can get information specific to Nana. Everybody has their own click handler within this RecyclerView. And so the question is, how do we do this? Well, a lot of this is going to be similar to the previous video, so I'm going to kind of go through relatively quickly. I am using JSON. JSON is going to allow me to convert a JSON string into a class. The class that I'm going to be using is called a myUser. The myUser class has an int age and it has a string name. And I am going to get my class of users out of this JSON file. So inside of here, I have an array. This is a JSON array that contains objects, and each object has an int age and a string name. This file excuse me, this file is parsed out from the getString method. We get the string from r.string.myUsers, and I pass JSON both the string and the class definition, and JSON winds up creating this into a list of my users because I had passed the data as a form of a list. And then what I do is I take this list of users, of my users, and I make an array list out of this. And I think that array lists are the best things to use for the RecyclerViews. So then next step, we take the RecyclerView that we have over here. So our RecyclerView was defined in the XML. So inside of my XML, I just have a big old RecyclerView over here. This guy is taking up the whole screen. The RecyclerView, I find him inside of here, and I'm going to make a new users adapter. Remember that the adapter is going to be the element that is responsible for converting data into individual rows. The adapter takes data and it smooshes it into individual rows that we have over here. And we'll talk about this definition in a moment. I tell the adapter that the data set has changed to force it to call its, its methods that are going to be responsible for populating rows, and then I'm going to add the default animators and alignment mechanisms over here, and then we tell the RecyclerView to set the adapters. Basically, we bind the adapter that we created to the RecyclerView. So the big idea here is how do we bind? How do we make this adapter, who's responsible for creating these individual rows, in such a way that he can have events that are specific to that particular row? How do we do this? Okay, well, what we're going to do, I'm going to lose the dialog fragment. I'm going to lose the main activity. Actually, I'm going to keep the main activity. We're going to go over here. We saw the strings. We've got this users adapter. So the users adapter, the constructor for this class, was called over here on line 38. The users adapter was called with two things. It was called with the list, right? So our array list over here. And it was called with this. So whatever this is. Well, it turns out that this is the class, obviously. But I'm not passing it as a context or whatever. Like, there's a reason why I'm passing the main activity over here. I'm passing the main activity because the main activity has a users adapter interface over here. This users adapter interface. And so my users adapter, I make sure that he implements this users adapter interface, and turns out that the users adapter interface is something that I just defined down over here. That's all this is. I made my own interface over here, and When items are going to be clicked, we're going to call this particular method on the view and with the position. So we'll get to that in a second. So my users adapter was called, and the constructor was called when the life cycle of the RecyclerView was kind of getting going over here. I created create view holder was called. So I'm going to return, in this case, a my view holder. The thing that we're returning from onCreateViewHolder, generally speaking, is a custom class that you define somewhere inside of here. So the onCreateViewHolder is part of the life cycle of this adapter. And the thing that you return is going to be a custom class that reflects the structure of a single row. Okay, so what we do is we use the onCreateViewHolder. What he does is he inflates a row. He inflates this single row that we have over here. This has my images, my text views, and my little ... image that we have over here, right? So the adapter is inflating a single row, and it's converting it into this view holder structure. It's passing the view that was just inflated to this view holder structure, and then the view holder structure is going to go and it's going to say, okay, this is a text view, this is an image view, these are sorts of things that we have inside of here, and you are bound to them by these particular names. Okay, so we've got a my new view holder here. This is the structure. This is like a Java structure of a single row. Great. Now, when it comes time to get individual rows to get stuffed with data, what we're going to get passed is this a view holder and a position. So the first thing we do is we take the position and we grab the user from that particular position, right? So I'm saying, okay, if we got called for position 0, we got passed a my user. So we got this user that probably had Bob and 13 inside of here. We used holder, and this holder for this particular row, and we're just passed him over here, and we set his text to be the user's name and string. What we also did at this point when we were binding the view holder is we bound a click listener. So we're binding a click listener to this ... button. So remember, this onBind view holder is getting called on every single row over here. And so by setting a click listener, I'm just setting the click listener for this particular row. And I'm going to make a new edit click listener from this position. Okay, so my new edit click listener, okay, what is he doing? So this implements view.onClickListener. Sure, this is a class that implements the view click listener. I got the position. I set the position equal to pause when he was created. But really, when he's clicked, I tell callback on edit item clicked. So what I'm doing here, let's look at the chain of this. I'm calling on edit item clicked in callback with a particular position. mCallback is the interface. Okay? mCallback is the interface. mCallback is the activity. Because when I created this class, when I created my users adapter, I was passed as a users adapter interface, UCB, and I bound callback to UCB. Let's take another step back. In the main activity over here, when I created my users adapter, I passed the list and I passed the class. So what we'll see over here is that when the user presses that image view, they're going to call this click listener, which is going to call callback.onEditItemClicked. This is going to be making a call inside of your main activity. And I'm promising you that I've written this onEditItemClicked down here, onEditItemClicked. So this is the method that's being called. This method is being called in the activity when I press this button over here, edit user. And so what we do is we just wind up making a little pop-up menu. We set item, we inflate the pop-up menu, and we show a little pop-up menu for this particular guy. And I have a class defined for this down here. But the mechanism that's important over here to realize is that each row was added at the time. So each row was added at the time. In this particular case, it was added when we notify our data set changed, basically. These rows are basically list items inside of this this musers list. Musers list was passed to the user's adapter. The adapter was bound to the recycler view. The individual rows, when they were populated into this view holder, there's a lot going on here. They were each assigned an on-click listener over here. I made a new on-click listener, and the on-click listener winds up calling the interface, and the interface calls method inside of the main activity. That's pretty long-winded, but it's a nice little proxy for doing more complicated things. I think this is a fun place where you can really begin to do some branching off and get some really sort of exciting examples going out of there. Okay, that's it.